This country talks such a big game about, Judge, put the children first. It's all about the kids. How often do we hear that? It's all talk. Because the minute that there was a little risk that little Johnny could come home from middle school with something and sneeze on mom and dad, oh my God, panic. We're just gonna derail this kid's childhood for maybe the rest of his life.
So that is Jesse Watters talking about the kids. If you're not familiar with Jesse Watters, he's basically what you would get if Greg Gutfeld was less funny and Sean Hannity was less passionate and Tucker Carlson was less wily. Ducey was less kind of like jovial. And then all that you had left was, I guess we need another person on our network. You'd get Jesse Watters. So there, he says we're supposed to be thinking about the kids. He's not talking there about more funding for education, making sure they reach their potential. He's saying get them back in schools right now, because any adult who's worried about sending them to schools and is perhaps worried about the fact that they might get their teachers sick or they might get COVID, which could cause long-term health effects for them, or then bring it home and get their parents sick. You're a bad person, but you're not just like a vaguely bad person. He wants to make a comparison to World War II. So take a look at this.
I don't want to downplay COVID-19, but other adults and other generations, Judge, went off to war in the Pacific, in Europe, to save their own children from communism, totalitarianism. But what did this generation do? As soon as something came along that had a 99% chance of survivability, they shut everything down.
I think that Jesse Watters is an untalented hack who gets paid in an incredibly cushy job to provide absolutely nothing of substance to this country or the world. He is laughably untalented. And for him to sit there and pretend as though he cares about the mental health or well-being of children is laughable, considering the fact that he's been an advocate for incredibly dangerous austerity, including cutting SNAP benefits, which would, of course, and has led to hunger among children living in poverty. He, of course, has no interest in the health and well-being of children who might go to school and contract the virus. This is really about, look, anytime you hear a conservative talk about, oh no, we care so much about the children, we care so much about this or that. No, ask yourselves, like, take a materialist analysis and apply it to their argument. They want everyone to go back to work.
Yep,
okay,
that's it.
That's all it is at the end of the day.
People are gonna say, Waters, you went to people's homes. I did, but there's a difference. I went to elucidate, not to intimidate. There's one guy with a microphone shows up, asks a polite question, and then leaves. It's a lot different than having a mob of angry radical activists screaming at the top of their lungs at nighttime while the kids are home. That's different, and that's what I want to make clear right now. I might have had my collar up. That was probably the most flagrant thing I did.
Okay, so that is Jesse Watters, who seems to have at least heard the criticism that the thing that he's saying people shouldn't do, which is hound people in their personal lives, is literally how he got his start on Bill O'Reilly. Now he smooths over a few of the bumpy patches of that there was a large amount of racism baked into the people that he targeted, the questions that he asked and all that. He got in their face, he selectively edited it. It was a pathetic way to launch a career, but that's what he did. And so now he has to pretend that there is a major difference between that and what we're seeing in the protests outside of like Kavanaugh's house or whatever. But again, they're gonna undercut themselves in real time. Just as we pointed out on the show yesterday with Liz Wheeler, they wanna show footage. That's what they do. They wish that they could do 6 months of the same building on fire on repeat that they did back in 2020. The footage they have is the footage they used, and you saw it there in that clip. Did that look like a mob to you? I cannot believe that they thought that this would be a good idea, except that they know their audience is gonna look at that footage. I don't know if we can put it up again without the audio, just so people can see a little bit of that. But it's a group of people, sure. They have some signs. It's not a mob. They're not like desperately trying to like breach the barricades or anything. They have a sign. They're chanting. Considering the stakes, rights that people have had for decades and decades and decades, I think that they're being fairly reasonable at this point, yes. But what do you think? There's the footage. That's a crazed mob.
Any group of people who don't like you and are opposed to what you're doing can seem threatening to you, right? And I think that that's kind of part of what's happening. But on top of that, they keep talking about this issue about abortion, and they're missing the point, right? The point is not actually about abortion itself. It's about a woman's right to choose what to do with her body, right? And there's a lot of pro-choice Democrats, and I'll tentatively include myself in this demographic, but there's a lot of pro-choice Democrats who would, if given the situation, would choose not to have an abortion, right? That's still an option, right? But it's still the option. We're fighting for the option to make that choice for ourselves.
My garbage person of the week just got a primetime show on Fox News. It's Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters, who is the dumbest person on Fox News. He's basically a smirk wearing a suit. He was the schmuck pants who was the PA on Bill O'Reilly's show, and they brought him in to just go be racist at college kids and Chinese people in Chinatown. He got his own show, and one of his first segments he did on it was to say, oh, listen, people don't want to work in America anymore. So he went out to the person who is a Redditor on the anti-work subreddit, brought this person who's never done TV before in just so he could bully them. So let's take a look at how that went down.
Good work day. How many hours is a solid work day in your ideal society?
Sure. I mean, I think as much as people want. I mean, I personally work. I have like a 20-25 hour work weeks, which I think is fairly good. So I would like less work hours.
And what do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker. Okay.
Yes.
And how?
Yeah. So
how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay. And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
I love working with dogs. If I had to do this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be super complaining. Dogs are wonderful animals. But I would love to teach. I would love to, work with people and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Philosophy mostly. Just introduction to philosophy, critical thinking, reason, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I would love to take your class, Doreen. I would just be taking notes the whole time. And
so he brings someone who's never been on TV before, to beat this person up. And the truth is, Doreen came back, or originally was just like, I just don't want people in a place in the world where their job ruins their life. And their bosses are calling them on weekends and saying, you need to do this when they're an hourly employee.
Yeah.
That's all Doreen was saying. But this terrible schmuck, this bad guy from the 80s movie who thinks that like the Goonies were the bad guys, he comes out there and he treats Doreen like absolute trash. And it ended up, I don't know anything about Doreen other than that they're like a dog walker who seems pretty happy with their life. Who said that? And the last part I'll say about Jesse Waters is he's talking about Doreen being a philosopher and being a philosophy teacher. That's your job, Jesse Waters. You're a philosophy teacher. When he tries to talk about people who are blue collar workers and he's trying to appeal to them, be that populist voice that completes the total transformation of Fox into the Trump News Network. He's making fun of people with jobs that help people.
Yeah.
That's a service. That's a service that Doreen provides. All Jesse Waters does is show up and be mean.